So, in the Genocide Memorial in Yerevan in Armenia, one of the most like kind of noticeable things um, is what's most prominently displayed is the names of the towns and the cities. And like what I'm used to, I think what a lot of people are used to from memorials is that you see the names of people kind of prominently displayed. But here, most prominent is the cities and towns, and like I think that's like the kind of genocide it was, which um, the victims are obviously people, but the victims were that these towns were wiped off the map. These towns, the indigenous population of Armenians, they were just gutted, and like this town where I'm in right now, Van, excuse me. Um, the population was just replaced by Turks and Kurds, um, and like these places just don't exist anymore. Like it was the loss of the nation, which comprised people, but it was also a place. The place is gone. What was Armenia before is gone. Okay, so Van, as I mentioned before, so this is where I am right now. Um, and I mentioned before, this is a very, very, very old city. This is a place which is, settled since 5000 BCE. It was the capital of this, so not that far from here, Mount Ararat, um, which is one of the things I came here to see. This is, an icon of Armenia, which is still, it's everywhere in Armenia, and it's not in Armenia. It's in Turkey now. It was taken from Armenia. Um, Van was the capital of the ancient kingdom of Urartu. Urartu is kind of what was Hebraicized to Ararat in the Bible. Um, the city of Van itself was, in like the 9th century BCE, it was known as Tushpa, and it was this ancient city, and it was an important city in the kingdom of Armenia, and like for me, like going back to that history was really where uh, like that was where this place derives its meaning from. That's one of the reasons why I came here. That it's there's something special when there's the strength of a place and not just like a particular group of people, but like an actual place. The place activates, and it activates throughout the generations. This city, in its long, long, long history in this place, which is this is not the most not the most peaceful places. This is the city under the name of Van and under other names. This is a place which has been it's been conquered by the Persians. Who are today I was like less than 10 kilometers from the Iranian border. Like we're really close to Iran, and I mentioned also on Facebook that there's a wall that has writing on it from Xerxes the Great, who is speculated to be Ahasuerus in the Bible. Um, so this is a city that was conquered by Persians. It was held by famous Persian kings like Xerxes and Darius. It was conquered by Alexander the Great. It's conquered by the Byzantines. It was conquered by the Arabs. Conquered by the Seljuks. Conquered by the Mongols. And then eventually the Ottomans. But this the sense that I got, it was that it's that like this place, it's not the people, it's and obviously it is the people, but like this is a place that's used to war, and like to personify it, like it's a place that has had a long history. Its whole existence has been just defending its children, and it's the people who its children were, the people who were here defending themselves for thousands and thousands of years, were always Armenian, um, and they were almost always a lone Christian population in a hostile non-Christian region. That's the that's Muslims, but that's also like the Mongols. So where this starts is this guy. This guy is Abdul Hamid. So remember this name, okay? in the late 1800s. So he was responsible for the deaths of about 300,000 Armenians. And now Abdul Hamid, listen to my Turkish tour guide talking about Abdul Hamid.
We have about 36 sultans in our history, starting from 1299 until 1923. And out of these 36 sultans, we don't remember all the sultans with the same memory.
Right.
Some of them were good, some of them were not good. So that's why I will try to cut the long story very short, just show you the important ones and mention about the important, the ones that we admire, we respect more. Is a very important sultan for our history, the most religious sultan, Abdul Hamid. Bayezid Abdul Hamid. He's the one who built the railway to Hijaz.
Yeah, Medina.
So Abdul Hamid.
Uh-huh.
And the last two sultans, I mean, no need to mention.
Uh-huh.
We call them puppets of Europe.
Okay, so during what became known eventually as the Hamidian massacres, Abdul Hamid Hamidian massacres, this was at the end of the 1900s, the Ottomans sent troops to destroy the Armenian population of Van. This is a place that had tons of Armenians. Abdul Hamid, he was gonna solve the Armenian question. This is if that sounds familiar to you. The Ottomans had been kind of embarrassed, by if this also sounds familiar, embarrassed by a non-Muslim population living in the heart of what they see as Muslim land. So Abdul Hamid sends troops to destroy the Armenian population of Van. People of Van mounted an armed resistance, and they fought off the Sultan's men for a week, and the Sultan agreed to leave the Armenians in peace. Okay, so he says, there's a week-long battle. He says, okay, let's make peace. He admitted even that they were acting in self-defense, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you safe passage to Persia, and you can peacefully evacuate. The Armenians went out of the city, and he sent his troops to just kill all of them immediately. Okay, so made peace with them, agreed to have them leave, and then breaks his word, kills all of them. Okay, and during the Hamidian massacres, then we're talking about 20,000 Armenians killed in around this area. So around this area of Van, where I am right now, about 350 Armenian villages were destroyed around this area. So that became known as the Defense of Van in 1896. Okay, that was the first Defense of Van. So fast forward to 1915, and there's another event called the Defense of Van. That's really kind of what I want to talk about. So, just to preface this, the way I went about learning all this, learning about all the trials of this city, and the thousands and thousands of years defending its people. The reason why I preface all this with that was that the defense of Van, what happened here about 100 years ago. It was like there's times when a historical event feels like something more, and this to personify, because that's really how it feels. This felt like the city giving its final gifts to its people. This is not just historic events. This is the story of Van defending its people, and the defense of Van in 1915. This is the last thing it could do for its people, and it wasn't everything, but it was all it could do. So around this time, this is World War I, and the Ottoman Empire makes a stupid, ridiculous offensive campaign into Russia in the winter. And as we all know, then there's only one man who can do that. Only one man who's allowed to do that. His name is Genghis Khan. Everyone else who does that doesn't work out. So Ottomans attack Russia in the winter. They lose a crazy amount of their troops. I think like 90% of their troops. Okay, so so they have this horrible defeat, and immediately just blame the Armenians. They say the Armenians, were the Ottoman Armenians sided with the Russians. They betrayed us, and There was some, obviously after the way that the Ottomans have treated the Armenians, then there was, Ottoman, Armenian. There was occurrences of Ottoman Armenians switching sides, and you know, seeing the Ottoman Empire as the enemy. But it was not this thing that they made it out to be. It was, the Ottomans, the Armenians still largely saw themselves as part of the Ottoman Empire, as part of their country. And this is clearly just another attempt at solving the Armenian question. This is you know so this is the Ottomans saying, okay, so now we have an excuse to get rid of these people. So in Van, which was a lot of Armenians here at the time, they put this guy in charge. So this is the beginning of everything. Okay, so they put this guy in charge, and the guy's nickname is the Horseshoer of Bashkali. Okay, now why does he have that name? He has that name because he became known for his affinity for nailing horseshoes to the feet of Armenians. Okay, so that's the kind of guy we're talking about. So Armenians in Van, they see this guy come to power. They say, okay, this is probably not going to be good. This guy sends Ottoman soldiers, to just kill and rape and burn Armenian villages around the whole region. Okay, about 51, it was 51 villages. So 51 villages completely disappeared, or completely wiped out, and you had tons of refugees flooding into Van. And Van was, it became one of the few places in this whole period of history where Armenians actually stood up for themselves, were able to stand up for themselves. Were not just completely robbed of even the opportunity to mount any defense. The Armenians of Van, they really were able to successfully mount a defense, and this was about 1,000 Armenians. So there were about 1,000 Armenians in Van at the time. There were more Armenians in Van. There are all these refugees that are coming to Van, but there are about 1,000 armed Armenians. Okay, so there's 1,000 armed Armenian men against about 15,000 Ottomans, and the area that they kind of fortified themselves into was about 4 square kilometers. Okay, so you have this gigantic empire mounting a siege on this tiny area. You have a 15th of the manpower, and these people are civilians; they're not soldiers. So but they're this is what they have to do. So they really pull together and mount this crazy defensive effort. And this is one of the everyone pulled together. You had kids, you had like these little Boy Scouts who were like running messages back and forth, and you had women who were aiding the cause and sewing uniforms and cooking, and you had people making weapons from just like stuff they had lying around. There was this Armenian cannon that they made. It was a cannon that was made out of melted pots and pans. This is the type of defense that we're talking about. There's a chemistry professor who were just like put in charge of setting up a munitions factory in like this tiny area, and he was able to make a factory that produced like 2,000 rounds a day, from scrap. You're just like this like chemistry guy, and like they did everything right. They set up a temporary government to like negotiate with like the Ottomans, and also the other foreign powers. They set up, I think they even set up like some kind of like a news outlet to just like get the news out, of what was going on. And so they mounted this defense, and lasted several weeks. Like this is not just like a last stand. This is like a siege. And like it was basically hopeless, but they kept fighting, and they just kept fighting, and their churches were being destroyed, and like their whole city was being burnt. This is 1,000 people defending thousands and thousands of these refugees, and a lot of refugees had died already. A lot of them were dying during these wars. during these battles. Um, and but like it was a successful defense, in terms of them being able to last. And the Ottomans actually, were about to, people were deserting. You had an attempt by the Ottomans to pull the same trick as last time. They offered peace, and they said you can escape to Persia, you can escape to Iran. And this time, the Armenians had learned, the city of Van had learned from the last defense of Van, and they said no. They knew that once they left, and the Ottomans were just going to massacre all of them, break their word, just like they did before. And they kept fighting, and they just kept fighting for weeks, and it was like it was hopeless. Like, just to convey this, like, this is, like when you have thousands and thousands of actual armed troops, like you can mount a successful defense, but to survive is just like like that's it's a defense. It's not survival. You're not going to win a war, fighting, just like trying to defend a 4 square kilometer patch of land, So everything was going bad. The Ottomans, had the upper hand, and then they were about to land the final blow, and then everything stopped. And the Ottomans put down their arms and retreated, and the Russians had come. And the Russians, at the time, they controlled eastern Armenia, which which was not suffering like this and was completely safe. Russia was a Christian country, and it was a strong country. And so they came in. They were at war with Ottomans. This is World War I, and the Ottomans retreated, and the Russians took they took the city, and what was left of the city. The city was burnt to a crisp. There were, let's see, what was it? It was about 55,000 Armenians were dead in the region, and there are just bodies everywhere. And these starving defenders of Van were crawling out from their refuge, and they were declaring victory because they they had been rescued, and they'd won, and this was going to be the start of like a turnaround. They were setting up the Republic of Van. They were setting up this place to be a new country that was going to be like an Armenian country, where Armenia was. This is to rewind. This was Armenia. This is it was part of the Ottoman Empire then. It is part of Turkey now, but this was Armenia. And you had them. The Russians seemed ready to like kind of help them secure the rest of the population in the area. And there's going to be a complete turnaround for Armenians from this power who had been massacring them for hundreds of years. But that didn't happen. And the Russians basically strategically, logistically, they couldn't keep their troops in the area. And the surviving Armenian population were led by the Russians. They said, we just have to leave. And they were taken to eastern Armenia. They're taken to Yerevan. The people in Yerevan that I saw when I was there last week, those were the descendants. Their grandparents, great-grandparents probably had fought off the Ottomans in Van. And now they're in Yerevan. But but these are the people who they had fought off the Ottomans. Their ancestors fought off the Alexander the Great, the Mongols. This is the population of Van. So about 300,000 Armenians escaped to Russia, escaped to eastern Armenia, and then what ended up happening was the Ottoman Empire used the defense of Van. They called it an uprising. They called it a rebellion, and they used it as proof that Armenians were an insurgent population who had to be exterminated, who were a danger. And they had all the prominent Armenians in Constantinople arrested, and then deported or murdered. And the Ottoman Empire used the defense of Van. This set off what would become the Armenian Genocide. This was kind of the thing that the Ottomans needed to. There's always, with these genocides, there's always like some event, and this is the event that the Ottomans need to say, okay, now we're gonna kill all of them. And after the defense of Van, and after that small part of the population was saved, then over 1 million Armenians were killed. Countless Armenian towns and cities were wiped off the map, and what used to be Armenia is now Turkey. And thinking back to like that theme that I was saying, and like kind of the way that I'm seeing the story, that the city of Van, it pulled together, and the last thing that it did in 1915, the last thing that it did for its children was it saved 200,000 Armenians, and it got them out right before everyone was about to be killed. And city of Van still exists, but its population is somewhere else now. It's somewhere safe.
In front of us you can see the part with 12 columns, and when you are looking from the top it seems like an open wound. In front of it flame is burning. On the right side, that columns means that seeds which coming from the ground. It means after the genocide we could survive. Until now we are living on the earth.